I feel like the thing that you care about in having universal health care, the case is being made every day.
All right, so I came across an interesting segment from this weekend on AM Joy, MSNBC's show with Joy-Ann Reid, where she now appears to be in support of Medicare for All. Now, to give you full context, it appears she may have made this change back in November. I'll show you that in a minute. But what's funny about this is, sure, you can say you support Medicare for All, but unless you are actually platforming and fighting for the candidates that are trying to get it done, then it doesn't mean anything. Because I'm going to show you some more context from back in 2017 of what MSNBC normally does when it comes to Bernie Sanders and Medicare for All, and what Joy Reid herself was saying back then. But first, I want to show you this conversation. So this is actually a really good convo because who do they have on? Wendell Potter. So this is posted by Case Study QB. Wendell Potter is the VP, former VP at Cigna, and he's now a whistleblower and reformed insurance propagandist. And he has been with Bernie Sanders in this fight for Medicare for All. But this is somebody who used to work for a health insurance company, a private health insurance company. And now he is discussing the disgusting ways that industry worked and how they are fighting against, actively fighting against Medicare for All, and how he himself understood and understands how Medicare for All would benefit the most amount of people. So let me show you this clip, and there are a number of things to discuss here, including Joy-Ann Reid's support of Medicare for All, but also Wendell Potter and the great points he makes here.
And Wendell Potter, aside from the sort of pragmatic issues, Alabama County, it got 5,000 rotted masks from the national stockpiles. We've got a lot of issues in the federal level. But I think the biggest has to be the fact that we don't have a universal health care system to make sure that if you go in and you're treated for COVID-19, who pays for that? Who pays for the tests that you're getting? Do you wind up getting billed for the other issues that you have underlying the COVID-19? And what are you paying for? I feel like the thing that you care about in having universal health care, the case is being made every day. How do you convince Americans that at this point, maybe the thing to do is to just say, okay, let's just cover everyone with Medicare. That way we don't have to worry about this.
And Jerry, more and more Americans coming to realize that just over the past few weeks, polls are showing the support for moving to Medicare for All has really leaped. People are getting it. Just a few weeks ago, Democrats on the debate stage were saying how much we need to protect the employer-based healthcare system. If we were to have a debate right now, I doubt that anyone would dare say that, because we're looking at 35 million Americans losing their jobs and losing their health insurance along with it. And you've got these states like Tennessee, where I grew up, that did not expand Medicaid. In that state, largely or partly because of that, you've seen 13 rural hospitals close across the state. In the part of the state where I grew up, in the Appalachian part, it's going to be particularly hard hit because so many miners who work in the mines have lung issues and other underlying health issues. It's really going to be devastating. And until we get to understand as a nation that we need to cover everybody, that we are really, frankly, our brother's keeper, our brothers and our sisters, we're going to have a real big problem here. Having said that, the insurance industry, by the way, Joy, is expecting they're going to come out looking just fine. That's because so many elective procedures and other things that have been scheduled have been canceled. And they know that because we don't have Medicare for All, because we don't have another option for most people, they can just raise rates next year. So not only are people facing a real crisis here in terms of our health and well-being, but also our financial health. Even those who get through this and still have health insurance, they can expect to see their premiums increase significantly next year.
Go up. Absolutely. And of course, the Trump administration is locking the door behind and not allowing people to sign up for the Affordable Care Act care. So people are going to be left without insurance. And then you will have a pre-existing condition if you get treated for COVID-19 and recover. I think a lot of people need to think about it. Obamacare was the best we could get to in terms of trying to get universality. We got about 20 million people covered that way. There's still a lot of people left over. Now a lot fewer people have health care because they don't have a job. And that's how they get their health care.
All right, so pretty good discussion here, thanks to Wendell Potter and the points he makes. Again, this is a guy who worked in the insurance industry, understands how they think, how they operate, how they're even looking forward to the end of this, and how they're not worried at all because they see all the potential to be able to raise rates afterwards and still have all these elective surgeries coming up. just completely disgusting. And to have all these people now, millions of Americans losing their job and in turn losing their healthcare provider because they had healthcare through their employer, just completely insane. There was no defense before of this for-profit healthcare system. There absolutely is no defense now either. It is obvious. So it makes sense that even, people like cable news hosts are coming out in support of Medicare for All. But the important thing to note here is that they can say they support Medicare for All, but are they actually propping up, discussing, fighting for the candidates that are trying to get it through, that would actually be serious about getting it passed? So the closest Joy-Ann Reid has come to in terms of that so far has been a video here on Elizabeth Warren. So here, Joy Reid finally dives into Medicare for All in a positive light. But of course, it's Elizabeth Warren's plan. Elizabeth Warren's plan, which was a two-part plan, all about passing a public option first and then having a fight for Medicare for All 3 years later during a re-election year. Just a completely ridiculous, unrealistic plan. To have two separate healthcare fights and think you're actually going to win both. It's completely insane. So, again, showing you that's as far as they'll go. They won't go as far as Bernie Sanders, who actually is going to fight for Medicare for All, who's been calling out insurance companies by name his entire life. They're not going to fight for that guy, but they'll fight for somebody who pretends to support Medicare for All, but they know in reality will not actually get it through. Now, a large part of this is not because these people are different than any other host on the network. It's about the network themselves. These networks make tons of money. They make ad revenue off of health insurance companies. You watch cable news, you watch CNN, you watch MSNBC, you watch Fox News. What are the commercials you see that pop up? A lot of it is private health insurance. That's what comes up. So these massive media companies, they're good buddies with the health insurance industry, which is why you see the Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment to work together on this in terms of not wanting a Medicare for All system. Both of these parties, and including the media establishment in both, in support of both of these parties, are in support of the status quo when it comes to healthcare because they benefit financially, both in terms of politics and in terms of the media itself. And I got to show you this. So this is a Humanist Report video. Mike Figueredo, fantastic commentator on YouTube. This is a 2017 video. I'm going to show you the clip that he shared here. Joy Reid and media friends bash Medicare for All with GOP talking points. So while today Joy-Ann Reid is talking about, and again, I don't want to just single out Joy Reid here, but she is a perfect example of the problem because it is the whole network. It's the network in general, as well as CNN. But here you have MSNBC host Joy Reid discussing Medicare for All in a very negative light, in addition to the rest of the panel as well, that continues to bash Bernie Sanders, the only person actually fighting for Medicare for All at that time. Watch.
Benji Sarlin was tweeting about this really great Vox piece that Ezra Klein wrote, so going through the challenges in trying to do healthcare, including the big amount of taxes you'd have to raise, taking 250 million people off their healthcare and putting them on this program that the government runs and all of that. And Benji Sarlin asked the question, are the Bernie-crats going to accuse any Democrat who doesn't sign on to that whole blue plate special? Are they going to accuse them of being establishment and walk away from them the way that a percentage of Sanders supporters walked away from Hillary Clinton? Is there a risk that in 2018 you have a faction of Democrats who are so purist that if you don't sign on to that Bernie bill, you're done, and they will literally threaten the re-election of Democrats and threaten Democrats' ability to take over a House of Congress?
Yes, there's no question that that's a risk. And the tone has to be set by Bernie himself. Now, I see that he has said that this is not going to be a litmus test for 2018, and it's good that he said it, but I think he needs to say it and say it and say it and say it. And it'll be more important in 2020 when the presidential candidates come up. But it's going to be very important in both elections. And look, I think on the one hand, it's great that Sanders did this. It opens up the field, it opens up space to talk about health care in a lot of different ways. And so, and they're playing offense and pleasing the base. On the other hand, what happens when the Congressional Budget Office scores this and the taxes are like
through the roof? It won't happen. Very quickly, Jonathan, very quickly.
Real fast, it's not enough for Senator Sanders to say this isn't a litmus test over and over again. He has to condemn the people who attack. Yeah. And that's something he has shown no willingness to do.
Yeah.
All right. just amazing. I mean, this video really is titled perfectly. Joy Reid and media friends bash Medicare for All with GOP talking points. That's exactly what they did. Joy Reid starts the clip off there talking about, oh, taxes will go up. It will be government run. They'll be taking you off your healthcare provider. Like, these are all conservative talking points against Medicare for All. And then they go on to attack Bernie Sanders because his supporters want Medicare for All. Like this, it's important to give you this context, because when you see hosts like Joy Reid or whoever else it'll be on CNN or MSNBC talking about how they now support Medicare for All, a single payer, remember what they've been doing the entire time. They have been smearing and attacking the only candidate that has been seriously fighting for a Medicare for All system, because they have no interest in actually passing a Medicare for All system. They'll do it when it's popular now. They'll talk about it, but are they actually going to say how Bernie was right the entire time, how they were wrong for bashing him for 4 years? Are they going to discuss that? Of course not. They will never, ever take the blame for the kinds of opinions that people now have of Bernie Sanders. They spent 4 years smearing him. And now they're going to come and say Medicare for All is the answer. Give me a break. More examples here. Remind you of this. This is just a few months ago. This isn't back in 2017. This is in January. Joy Reid brought on a body language expert to attack Bernie Sanders. Common Dreams headline here. This is why no one trusts the media. MSNBC slammed for featuring body language expert who calls Sanders a liar. This same body language expert had been on Fox News a number of times as well, attacking Democrats. Just completely disgusting. An obvious attempt here to smear and attack Bernie Sanders while he was riding high in popularity in January. This is what the media has always done. Again, attacking the only candidate actually seriously fighting for Medicare for All and fighting against the private health insurance industry. And just to remind you, this is not just a Joy Reid problem. When Bernie announced his candidacy back in 2019, this report from The Intercept, MSNBC yet again broadcast blatant lies, this time about Bernie Sanders' opening speech, and refuses to correct them. So I think I did a video on this back when this happened a year ago, but it's just the typical, it's what they do. This is what the media has done for 4 or 5 years now when it comes to Bernie Sanders. They see him as a real threat because he is a real threat to the establishment. He is a real threat to their concentrated wealth and power. And because of that, even if they're going to pretend they support an issue like Medicare for All of a sudden, they are never going to actually seriously back the candidates that will really make the change.